Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to today's episode. The title is No World Stands Alone, and I am excited to speak about geometrical interconnectivity. What does that mean? Uh, I even thought of using the term a geometrical intercontinuum. And so in this episode, I want to suggest that no world stands alone, that we are separating realms and meaning, yet it all stands together. A question arose, I wrote it down. Am I seeing atoms or a person? That means when I look at a human being, are they limited to, excuse me, they're limited to, guys, pretty much, sorry, I distracted myself there for a second. Am I seeing uh, atoms or a person, you know? Pretty much the question of intelligence, the question of what is going on here, it has been classified to the individual through language. Now, I speak about languages often, and I speak about that the next great language of all languages is geometry. And so geometry is a part of our lives because everything in our life has a design dimension. Now, something strange is happening that when you look inside a snowflake, if I were to show you a picture of a snowflake, oh my God, I gotta Google snowflake right now. If I were to show you inside a snowflake, you would see that there's this kind of pure geometrical structure there. But when you look at it outside nature, it doesn't have that geometry. So it seems like as if there is a view of the world that is pure geometrical and then a view of the snowflake that is not as geometrical. We don't even see it. It's like the more we've zoomed in, the more we've seen there's smaller particles than the atom. And eventually we will get to a point where we can't see anymore. So if we rely on sight, our ending is where it began, really. But if we wonder about beyond sight, if we wonder about intelligence and what is this interconnectivity of worlds, let me tell you, we tend to think that like there's person A, person B, person A is in world A, person B is in world B. Okay, now let's say person B comes to world A, so it becomes person A and B in world A. Okay, two different beings in one world. I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's a multidimensionality of cutting the cake in pieces, and then there's the multidimensionality of there being different cakes. Now we've conceived both of these. When it comes to cutting the cake in pieces, that's where our linguistic knowledge takes us. That's how far language has taken us. We've pretty much looked at this world as one existential event and experientially cut it up, leaving a trail of language behind. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. It was just the way we went forth. But I feel that this gave us an illusion that worlds can stand separately. What that means is we can't tell if this world of ours is a cake or it's a piece of a cake of a bigger unfathomability. It has to do with scale. When people think about evolution on a very short, as if it's as an idea that, here's the thing, it's like this, the amount of time the cosmos has had to sculpt and polish and sharpen the human intelligence. It does make sense because there is the whole point of even gene theory is that there is a cell that's self-replicating. Pretty much a cell has copy-pasted itself and now we're all here. That's evolution for you. Of course, it's not that simple. There's so many things. There is so many angles that you could look at something. It's like, again, you could look at a tree and see a tree. Then you could look at it and see the halls of lattice. You can see the geometry of the atomic. You can consider it. You know, this was what Richard Feynman was saying, that he had a friend that saw the beauty in the flower, some sort of, you know, sacred, divine beauty. But Richard Feynman was like, I see beauty too, but I see it in the atomic constitution, the cells, how when you actually reverse engineer from physics, you go to chemistry. That's really how we're kind of figuring our realm out when it comes to background radiation and all that. Pretty much it's like the universe is being considered to be an energetic potential that through a strange transformation, it's like the most strangest thing for the human mind, that something had to be set in motion. That means either the chicken came first or the egg, either the force that moved stuff came first or the stuff that created the force came first. For me, if you look at the pattern of what's happened in history, what does that mean? That means at the end of the human story is a geometrical realm of movement, irrelevant to any character, any concept or context. The world is a movement. Right now, particles are moving. But when I ask myself what is causing me, what is inspiring me to be an individual here, it honestly comes down to the antenna, a sort of reception, the antenna metaphor for the human intelligence. What does that mean? That means we are an antenna that receives things, and in accordance to how it receives it, it expresses it. That means if I look at a tree and I just see it as atoms, I cannot see, for example, the metaphor of the esoteric metaphor of the tree of life, for example. So it's like the way you look at something, it's, you know what it is? It's like our mind, our brain is like a biological camera. We are nature's camera. And what does this camera do? It can take snapshot photos. It can choose to remain one place and have the world move in front of it. It can choose to move in the world. Now this camera has an option to change its ISO of thought. I wonder about how this human design receives the world, and it's so crucial because before it receives, what is it? That means, could it be that what we think is human existence is just the potential of reception? What if the whole existence experientially is a field? And so this field is receiving signals superior to its design, superior to what's in the design in the field. You know, Dylan Thomas has this quote. He says, "Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light." And that sentence, I can tell you, for me, it was literally an instruction. It was a command. It was the ultimate human effort. That the way we won't go gentle into that good night is that we truly see what the human had in store. And that is currently limited to the classification of language. You know, a child could practice the violin. Somebody could come and tell the child, "Why do you have a violin in your hand? Don't touch a violin. You shouldn't even try." And that kid can actually go on his life not playing the violin ever. That's the issue. You know, that's what the classification of language has done. It has allowed us to speak about things, yet it has also cut ourselves up too. It's the karma of using language. The self also gets fragmented. The self gets dual. You know, I wanted to share this concept I've created. I call it the dual infinity. And people may wonder, how could there be a dual infinity? And I found a perfect example for it. The perfect example is you envisioning the yin-yang symbol, and you envisioning that each circle of the yin-yang symbol is another yin-yang symbol with circles in it, and each of those circles inside. So it is an endless, you can see the yin-yang symbol literally infinitely stretch. You know, you can see the notion of multidimensional balance. If you just saw each circle of fractally, each circle of the yin-yang symbol is another yin-yang symbol. So a dual infinity, however, I've also shared this idea that imagine you have a coin, and imagine on one side of the coin it's 0, on the other side of the coin it's infinity. So imagine this coin flipping, and so the person has an experience of the unknown, deep sleep, then suddenly has an experience of the conscious day, but in a totally new format. So what does that mean? The conscious waking state changes. The dream state also changes. It is the deep sleep where it is the ultimate mystery, and this is the grand question. If the temporary was a movement, and the eternal was an idea opposite of the temporary, the eternal by definition will become stillness. It is what has never moved. What is eternal doesn't change. So if we are we're changing beings in a changing world, using changing knowledge to explain an unchanging thing, we will never be able to touch, you know, the peak of that shelf. So this notion of the dual infinity is this notion of you return to the unknown, then you wake up into a world that is known. Then as you live in that day of the world that is known, you return back into the unknown. So technically it means that we are always changing our mind. Whether we like it or not, the mind has to change for it to become animate. The concept of even being animate means point A to point B. Something changed, something moved, something is here now. This geometrical interconnectivity of realms means that nothing exists alone. It means the biggest source of stress for the human species, that we feel we are cast away from the intelligence of the bigger picture. No more. Now we will know more. The attention is actually collectively functioning. We don't realize this because individualism has been the reference point. The most immediate thing that requires to be done to function and be activated as a mind in this realm is to notice the attributeless, the inconceivable. The edges of your knowledge is the sacred truth of your realm. You know, that means no person, the concept of jealousy eradicates, the concept of stress, depression eradicates. Why? Because we are a changing self in a changing world. And so the change now is up to us for eons, for a very long time. There has been no choice. It's as if you ask, where do you find free will in this universe? Only here on Earth for now. The tree is being perceived as physically existing atomically, but the tree is simultaneously existing culturally as a tree in regards to all the stories that the concept of the tree is in. So man, his mind is the line connecting everything. You are like literally, imagine a needle with a string attached to it. It's like sewing needle. And so you have sewn your way through manifestation as an archetype. The sounds of the world are not controllable. The ears are not designed to close, if you notice. The mouth can open or close, but the ears cannot. The eyes can open or close, but the ears cannot, you know. The sound is so required. Yet, attention is simultaneously present. Oh my God. These noises. You guys hearing society right now? That's society. That's how society sounds. Alright guys, the only thing I can do is put a song in the background so the attention goes less to... Okay. Hopefully this makes it better. So many things are not in our choice. So many things, they're just events taking place and the person chooses their participation. When I ask myself, are we just matter? I see I cannot know the concept of the material unless I compare it to the immaterial. When I wonder about how do I know the immaterial, it's because I have been able to wonder if there's more than the material. Okay. Geometrical interconnectivity renders geometry as a dimension of its own. If everything can be translated into a geometrical way, if I can look at that tree and turn it into geometry, perceive it as geometry, if I could look at the, anything, even sound, we perceive it as geometry. The only thing that we haven't perceived as geometry yet is actual language. As if there is a geometry to speech. There is a geometry to rhythm, believe it or not. It's like, what is the world doing? Where is the attention of human beings going? We are doing jobs that robots can. We're doing jobs that robots can, and the mind of man is being wasted. The true intelligence of the human being is not being considered because we have broken the mirror of the event, shattered the pieces and thrown these pieces at the depths and corners of our psyche. For me, the greatest insight to living has been that I am on a walk, and based on the pace and where I choose to walk, which suggests how I walk, if you're walking towards a dangerous place, the whole psychology changes. If you're walking towards a safe place, your whole psychology changes. The comfort, the ability, Can the listeners let me know if the outside noise is bearable or not? There's only one person. The laws of nature have sculpted intelligence somehow. You know, guys, what's strange is I actually think like I'm here talking about nature, and they're literally shredding trees. I think on the other side of the fence. Hey everyone, I need to definitely need to relocate the sound of the sound outside is just irritating me. So I'll be back, guys, for part two. Presence.